It's the Pete Souza Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the co-founder of Cake, a sexual health and wellness company designed for today and designed for you. Yes, you. The entire product line can be found at hellocake.com, and it's also available in every Walmart near you.
Send money abroad in just a few steps with Remitly. Sign up with your email, enter an amount, choose how your loved ones receive the money, enter your recipient's information, select a payment method, hit send, and relax. Download the Remitly app today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. The You Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. You Like.
So Caden Paul is here. Lex Paul is here. Christy Hunt is here. I got the whole family. They are here for the Pete Souza show today. You know, it's interesting. We had the Salvation Army of Central Texas had like an auction, you know, like people bid on who could come and see the show live. And of course it was my family who won. They kind of bailed me out. No, that's not true. They're here because it's the holidays, baby. Scotty Swingler's here. Chris Visser's worried. He's in Orlando. Yes, Chris, we are on the air now. I had a back doctor's appointment this morning with my man, by the way, Dr. Mordecai Suntanner, great college football player from Central Texas, and had a great career at finishing up at SMU after stints at Oklahoma and Wisconsin. But Dr. Mordecai is the best. They're trying to get me straightened out over there. Now we are here trying to get you guys straightened out on what's going on all around the world of sports. Thank you to Sikora Family Ford. Of course, Slovaceks. That's who we are presented by. My makeup was done by Christy. Christy, by the way, was one of the best makeup artists in the history of Estee Lauder. You know, there was a point in her life, Caden and Lex, before your mother was even married. She was kind of at a crossroads, and she became an amazing makeup artist. That's true, right, Christy? Christy, can you come over here just real quick? Just real quick. Just say hi. Come on. Just come back here. Just so people know. Look, go there. See, look at that. You don't think she's a great makeup artist? Huh?
She exists, everyone.
Yeah, she does. See that? She's not just AI, which, by the way, we had a huge conversation at the crib last night about AI. Lex is not on board. Let's just put it that way. And Christy, and even myself a little bit, we're like, well, you have to use AI to a degree. But, you know, if you want to, if you think the artists are gone, they are not. Right, Lex? Lex? Yeah. Lex is a true artiste. She's a true journalist. Caden's an engineer. We think, you know, that's what we want to happen. But they're here today, and I'm pumped that they're here. We got a big day planned in Waco. A couple things to hit with you guys. We're going to talk with Clint Bowen, by the way. He was the defensive coordinator, the interim defensive coordinator this year for Oklahoma State. The only guy that's really had to try to stop and try the operative word there to stop Texas Tech and Oregon. We know those two teams, Texas Tech and Oregon, getting set to play in the Orange Bowl coming up here on New Year's Eve, or excuse me, that's a New Year's Day game. And he's going to talk to us about what it is like to try to get in the way of both of those powerful high-octane offenses, because, you know, as a defensive coordinator, it's going to be interesting to see how Texas Tech works to stop Oregon. And when you look at Texas Tech's offense, it's, if anything, balanced. You know, they lean a lot on their defense. And I'm curious just to find out how potent that offense is and how they'll try to attack Oregon and how Oregon will try to stop them. But first, it's funny, we talk about a Pac-10 school or an old Pac-10 school in Oregon. One of the biggest stories, and we're going to talk about James Najee, who was just a Christmas gift added to Baylor's roster on Christmas Eve. A guy that's over 7 feet, from Nigeria, was drafted into the NBA with the 31st overall pick. Another sign that we're on shaky ground here as far as college basketball is concerned and personnel is concerned, but also there's just a changing of the guard, and being flexible right now is something that Baylor is really leaning into, right? And learning how to adjust in this new climate. But the big story to me, the overall like shocker over the holiday season, I have to say, is Kyle Whittingham ending up at Michigan. And I want you to think about it like this, because we've all been there in our lives, right? At some point, especially if you're around my age, like where, let's say you're dating someone, right? Like, and you're dating this person for a long time, okay? And you have lost an appreciation for this person, right? Just because literally you're changing, and maybe you're not like working on yourself, right? And this person is somebody you should be so grateful for. You know, they're always on time. They're attractive. They're accountable. They're honest, right? But it's just been a while. So you're kind of like, man, 20 years with this dude or woman or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's stale. Maybe, you know, you're very focused on self, right? Maybe I need something better. Maybe I need to like ratchet it up here, right? As far as like, you know, I want to stay ahead of the curve here relationship wise. And I feel like we're moving into a new era. The way that, you know, society views relationships. And I just need someone who's maybe a little more attentive, or maybe sexier, you know, whatever it is. That's what Utah basically did to Kyle Whittingham, right? 20 years as head coach at Utah, okay? Twice he was named coach of the year. A very young 66 years old. The guy, even Christy said he was very attractive, right? I showed her a picture of him. I was like, can you believe this guy's 66? He just looks like a hoss, looks like a cowboy. Scotty, can you confirm that?
He does indeed look like a hoss.
See that? So the guy looks like just a tough guy. But again, 66 years old, 20 years at the school, and folks inside the Utah athletic department, as the changing of the guard took place on the basketball court, they hire a new sort of, hiring Alex Jensen, a guy who played at Utah. That was a great hire. But it shows that the university is now more forward thinking. Similarly to like BYU when they hired Kevin Young, a guy who was on an NBA or inside of an NBA organization, right? And we saw with Kevin Young, a lot of young recruits, a lot of guys that can get paid through the portal, a lot of guys that want to get developed and play in the NBA, right? They run to go play for Kevin Young at BYU. And we know about the Utah-BYU rivalry. So what does Utah do? Well, let's see if we can get Alex Jensen, right? A guy who will attract the same type of interest from players who want to play in the NBA. Alex Jensen worked in the NBA for more than a decade, right? Was just recently on the Mavericks staff, was a head coach in the G League for a long time. So like they're college sports, right? We're always moving forward. We're always thinking forward. Okay, but Kyle Whittingham, when he stepped down, was really honest about the fact that, look, man, he was basically the person in the relationship that was like, I can tell that you don't want to be with me anymore. Like, because he had heard rumblings inside of Utah's athletic department for years now, right? That they were looking to turn the page, that quite possibly Kyle Whittingham had overstayed his welcome. The transition into the Big 12 didn't go terribly well that first year because there were a ton of injuries. And I think that the let's move on from Kyle Whittingham movement really picked up some steam after last year. And I think he felt that. I think they were knocking on the door of the college football playoff this year. Again, that's a typical Kyle Whittingham year, but still he felt the pressure to step down. So he leaves this relationship, right? He basically gets dumped, but says, I'll do you the favor. I am going to remove myself from this relationship because I can tell you're not interested anymore, right? So now you've broken up, right, with your significant other, right? So now if you put yourself in Utah's situation, your significant other is a free agent. They're on the street, right? And all of a sudden, and forgive me, like, the most attractive girl in the room that is more like just looks the part, right? Is like, hey, I want you to come over here and date me, Kyle Whittingham. Like you're with me, right? So now you're sitting back, and the person you just broke up with or just left your relationship because of your lack of interest, right? They could feel that you no longer cared about them in the same way. They hit the free market, and now they're with someone who's like 5-10 times better than you. So you're Utah, you're sitting at home, you're like, man, what the hell just happened, right? I got news for you, Utah fans. Like, don't worry. Like, Kyle Whittingham ended up with a very attractive girl, but I think she's kind of crazy, right? Like, when you look at Michigan and what has been going on there for a long time, that's a great hire. I think everybody wins in this situation. Michigan gets the stability, right, that they had been looking for, and that they so desperately need right now. They also get a guy who's a great fit, who knows how to win. I do believe right now we are in the middle of a complete honeymoon phase, because for Michigan, this is a home run hire, right? You couldn't have asked for anything more. And good on them and their embattled athletic director, Ward Manuel, right now, for understanding, hey, let's go outside the box here. This guy is perfect for us right now. He's not the young, hot offensive coordinator, right? But this is a guy who will be able to manage this situation. He's got unbelievable character. Coach of the year 2 times, like I mentioned, undefeated in 2008. Utah has been a juggernaut for decades now, thanks to Kyle Whittingham. Will Michigan be a juggernaut with Kyle Whittingham? I think so. I think right away he becomes, and I don't want to get over my skis and buy Scotty another goddamn steak dinner, so I'm not going to say he's the best coach in the Big Ten. But right away, you got to put him at like 4 or 3, right? Go ahead, Scotty, real quick. Like, let's talk this out. So, all right, so you got Ryan Day,
Ryan
Okay?
Day, Sig.
You got Signetti, and you have Dan Lanning, and then I think you can have Kyle Whittingham. Not bad, right?
I think you're right. I think that's exactly where I'd put him, Pete.
And honestly,
well done.
And this is a good relationship. I've learned from you. I tempered my excitement, right?
No prisoner Pete today.
No prisoner of the moment, Pete. Yeah. So that was one of the most interesting things I think that happened over the holiday. We'll expand on that a little bit more. We got Clint Bowen coming up right around the corner. He's ready to go right now. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk to the man who had to try to stop both Texas Tech and Oregon this year. And I want to talk to him about some of his Kansas roots. I talked to a former teammate of his this morning who said this guy was tougher than a $2 steak, right, when he was playing at Kansas. So a lot to talk with Clint Bowen about. We're back with him on the other side of this break. The Pete Souza Show is presented by Savagix. We got a full house today. It's a family affair. It's cold outside. Caden needs a hat. I said, Christy, Caden can wear one of my hats and use one of my jackets, and right away I get scolded that he won't fit in any of them. So that's why a lot of times you want to help, but then it's like, why? I should just, right, Chris? Like when you say to me, Caden doesn't have a hat and he doesn't have a jacket, that's the point where I just don't say anything, because suggestions, they kind of fall flat. My father used to say, like a fart in church, right? That doesn't go over well. All right, the Pete Souza Show is presented by Savagix. We'll be right back after that.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB, your bank for life, takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble does bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
The Pete Souza Show is back. We're presented by Slovacics. Hey, we can't wait any longer. Let's bring in Clint Bowen. He's been waiting patiently. There he is, Coach. What's happening?
What's up?
Hey, I'm so happy to have you for a lot of reasons, but a guy who you may or may not remember him. He's an artist now, John Bucati. So I was like, he's a dude that's been in my life for a little bit. I actually am going to call a basketball game with his brother-in-law who played hoops at Arizona. But I was texting John this morning. I know how deeply rooted you are in Kansas football culture. And I asked him about you, and like he was just oozing over text, man, all this gratitude about you and what you mean to the Jayhawks and Lawrence. But he said you and your brother Charlie would go like snake hunting back in the day. He said there's all kinds of like legendary stuff about you guys.
There is a good story about my brother. He had like the pythons and all those things, right?
Yeah.
I'll never forget one time, Gilbert Brown, Green Bay Packers, right?
Yeah, he was your team of Kansas.
All football players lived in the same dorm. And so, you're room to room. Gilbert's in there just screaming and screaming because one of our brother's snakes he didn't even put them in cages. They just kind of roamed the athletic dorm. And one of them was in Gilbert's room. He's standing on his damn table screaming for my brother to come get his snake out of that because he went across the room. So, yeah.
But we know Gilbert Brown. He was a pretty big dude.
Big guy on a table.
Hey, I want to ask you a little bit about your time at Kansas because I think a guy who doesn't get a lot of props as a coach is Glenn Mason. He really helped put Kansas football back on the map. You were a part of it. I think it was a couple of Aloha Bowls you guys went to. Talk to me about where Kansas football was. You're a guy from Lawrence, right? And then you went to play for Coach Mason, correct?
Correct, yep.
Yeah, what did he do for Kansas, and what was that like playing for him?
Well, and you're right. If you look at like the early to mid 80s, Kansas football was not good. And you go through the Godfrey era and that group, Coach Mason came in I think 1988, 89. And my brother was part of his first recruiting class in KU football. The year before, Sports Illustrated wrote the article about the toilet bowl between them and K-State. And so it was not a good time. Coach Mason came in and established an identity for KU football that kind of lived on. He got us from basically winning one game to 3 years later winning the Aloha Bowl in '92 by establishing a kind of an identity of being a tough, hard-nosed football team, and that was his mentality. Went on to the '95. I think they go 9-3, win another Aloha Bowl, and then he ended up going to Minnesota. But now Coach Mason's the real deal. He's that Woody Hayes, Earl Bruce, hard to play for kind of guy. It wasn't a friendly head coach player relationship, but you respected the man.
He took the job. He took the Georgia job, and then literally, like, I guess Vince Dooley was the AD, and he had to call him and say, "Hey, I can't leave Kansas." Vince Dooley was like, "Are you what?" He was like, "I can't leave. It means too much to me," which says a lot about the community that's so close to your heart.
Yeah, he did, Coach. I think he was set. I was actually trying to get my first job at that time. It was after the '95 season, and I was at Kansas and trying, and I'm begging Coach to take me to Georgia with him, and then then he announced that he's staying, and luckily I ended up going to Minnesota with him and hanging around, that way. But what he did at Kansas, at the time it was kind of like Bill Snyder at Kansas State was turning that one around. Glenn Mason was turning KU around. And so it's kind of ironic that really the same time frame, both programs got a head coach that got them going in the right direction. And obviously Bill Snyder continued on, and KU kind of hit some rough times again. But it was almost a race to see who could turn the program around faster, KU or K-State.
That rivalry is unbelievable. And it's been cool to see both schools been playing well, going toe-to-toe. Kansas State has been, pretty dominant in that rivalry. But I mean, what an exciting rivalry. And I want to take this to you now, working at Oklahoma State. You go into Lawrence, I think it was like November 1st, right? You're interim DC at Oklahoma State, and like one of your first games is back at home. Can you describe some of that emotion, Clint, that you carried into a game like that?
Yeah, that one was definitely surreal. I coached at Kansas for, I guess, 24 years. And so, been a part of, that's been a part of my entire life, growing up as a kid to playing there, to coaching there. And so then to, be at Oklahoma State and standing on the opposite sideline, it was very kind of an emotional game. Saw tons of people, former players, fans, just people you spent your whole life with. And then you're wearing a different color in their stadium. It seemed odd, but it ended up, being exciting. My son got to play in the game. My son's a quarterback here at Oklahoma State. He got to go in the game, he took our team down for a touchdown drive toward the end of the game. And so, but hearing my son's name get called over the loudspeaker, that Banks Bowen in at quarterback for Oklahoma State, when they said that was probably the part that I remember the most.
I mean, that's just amazing, that legacy, right, from you, your brother, down to him. And one thing too, like, you did a hell of a job at Oklahoma State this year. I think when you took over, I think almost 40 points a game were being surrendered by Oklahoma State. Over the last 3 games this season, you had the defense down to letting up just about 17. I mean, what did you do in a year in a world of such flux in college football? How did you settle the troops down and sort of plug some of those gaps?
Yeah, this was the most interesting thing I'd ever been a part of, in terms of, you talk about the psychology of trying to be a leader of a defensive unit. This was as challenging a situation that I ever met. First off, we get 9 or 10 of our top, 2 deep guys either enter the portal, just quit, red shirt, whatever you want to call it, whatever reason they said that they weren't playing for us. So we lose about half of our 2 deep on the first week. But I'll give our kids credit. They the ones that did stick around, they battled and fought. Our big message right away was represent themselves and represent our team and be great teammates. And we're fortunate to have a group of kids who really bought into that. I think schematically, between us and our defensive staff, which those guys, they switched over and continued to work extremely hard. So between our defensive staff and our defensive players just buying in to taking care of one another, being great teammates, and then schematically we came up with some things that honestly, we ended up the season without a defensive end on the roster. I mean, when I say 0 defensive ends, now we had a couple stand up outside backer jack type guys, and there was only one of them. So we personnel wise, it was crazy, but we were able to find a way to put, to kind of fit our scheme to the personnel that we had. And we did. Those kids, those last 3 games, they played their asses off. I mean, it was a lot of fun to be a part of. They were getting out there. They're playing hard. They're making plays. I hope that it led to a positive experience for a lot of our players. Cause in reality, the season was horrible. We win 1 game, head coach gets fired, DC gets fired. There's 8 million things going wrong. But I hope for those 3 games, I know for 3 games, seeing our defensive kids run off the field with the excitement level they had, the energy, they were getting after it and having fun and making plays. And I hope that for 3 games they enjoyed that, because they sure deserved it.
No, man, it was very cool to see some joy on the faces of those guys covering the Big 12 like I do. It was like a lot of respect. Like, I was like, man, this is pretty cool, because I can't imagine what it's like to stare into the abyss like that and keep your guys motivated. Let's talk a little bit about some of the teams you faced this year, Oregon and Texas Tech. These 2 teams are going to meet in the Orange Bowl. And I'm curious, just to dip into your mind, when you prepare for Oregon, What's the first thing that you try to take away? Is it tempo, perimeter speed, explosive plays? Like, what is it about Oregon you try to stop if you're Texas Tech?
Well, I got to back up and remind you, like I was actually the offensive analyst when we played Oregon. And then by the time we played Texas Tech, I was the defensive coordinator. So, I laugh. I got to jump. So in the course of one calendar year, I was a head coach at Lawrence High School, and then once in getting ready to play, Shawnee Mission East and Olathe North High School for playoff games, to being an offensive coach at Oklahoma State, to being the defensive coordinator, all in one calendar year. So, but for this talk, for the Oregon game, I was on the offensive side for Oklahoma State, and for the Texas Tech game, I was on the defensive side. But I know, listening to the game plan for that week, the Oregon game, they're one of those teams. Obviously, the QB is probably a bigger factor for them in terms of making their offense go. And then defensively, the two DNs for Oregon, the 10 and 44, those two are legit players, 52 on the inside to go. And then they got the Mike Backer. To stop Oregon's offense, I think they're a little bit more QB oriented than maybe Texas Tech is, to where Texas Tech's, their offensive balance is really unbelievable.
How do you try to stop Dante Moore, that quarterback for Oregon? Like, just as a football guy.
Yeah. If there's a team that has the guys to do it, it's Texas Tech. They have an athletic group of DNs, guys who can close it. Every time I watch Texas Tech, and I've seen them quite a bit. I'm talking about their defense. Shield Wood does such a good job with their defense, but they're able. To me, they're able to turn those defensive ends loose, and those kids are athletic. And then the big fella in the middle is disruptive. So D line wise, and the ability to squeeze a pocket and get after a QB, and then like when a Dante Moore kid gets outside the pocket, having guys who can match his athleticism and still running down. Texas Tech, like their D line is it's an impressive group to see in person. They look the part. They get off the ball and they play. So I would, think D-line wise, Texas Tech can do some things to, at least, match Dante's athletic ability. So, that part of it's going to be an interesting matchup.
I like how you talked a little bit about Lee Hunter, that big guy up front for Texas Tech. As a defensive coach, when you have a guy that is that special and that big in the middle of your defense, what does that allow you to do to try to stop a potent offense like Oregon? Like you mentioned it, you talked about David Bailey on the edge, Romello Height, like those guys now can come free, right? And you can roll the dice a little bit more, I'm guessing. Like how much does a guy like Lee Hunter do for the rest of the defense?
Well, it's huge, because when you kind of look at this game, I think both teams have really good defensive lines. I really do. I think the DNs at Oregon are good. Not quite the jump the ball athletic guys that the Texas Tech kids are. But the difference is that middle guy for Texas Tech. When you think about when I think about Texas Tech, their defense, I think about their true front seven. The D line and the linebackers are playing the run game and stopping it. The safeties and the DBs are out of there playing pass a little bit more. When you look at Oregon, and it's some of the things that Dan Lanning's doing defensively, they're more D-line, but the safeties are so much more involved in the run game for Oregon. And some of that three safety stuff that Dan Lanning's doing with the four-man front, which is a little unique in college football now, and starting to pick up some momentum. But you take the 31, the Purdue transfer, Thieneman, I think is his name, at Oregon. He's in the run fit a lot more. I just look at it differently. I see Texas Tech as being a true D-line, big nose, allowing the linebackers to make some more run plays, keeping the DBs out of the run fits, whereas Oregon's having to rely on a little bit more defensive stuff to get stops. I think they have to bring safeties in the box a little bit more than Texas Tech does. I think going to be a factor in this game.
So when you were, by the time you guys played Tech at Oklahoma State, you were the DC, right?
Correct.
So when you look, I'm curious about the Texas Tech offense. Like, what's the most potent part of that offense? Because Behren Morton is certainly, they've proven they need him to win.
Yeah.
But is he more of a caretaker type quarterback, and then they have to be balanced to beat you? Like, what are you worried about when you're scheming to stop Texas Tech's offense?
Well, that's actually the issue with Texas Tech. Is the quarterback doesn't have to beat you. I think he's rushed for maybe take his sacks. He's in the negative category in rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with Texas Tech, and it's what we went into it going, is you got two running backs, both averaging over 100 yards a game. Right?
Yeah, Williams and Dickey, they're good, man.
Both are very good. Every time they touch the ball, they're a threat. Right. Then you got the tight end who I think has over I looked at when we
Terrence
played
Carter.
Them, they had four guys, number 1, number 5, number 3, and number 7. And I think they all finished the year with over 45 receptions. So when you take a two running backs who can both carry the ball, and then you got four guys, your tight end and three wideouts who are all catching the ball. I mean, it is a true balanced attack. And that's the danger in Texas Tech is that they have guys at all spots that can make a play. I mean, number 3 at their inside slot receiver, that guy's dangerous. Like he makes plays. Both the outside guys are deep ball threats and can run. The tight end is sneaky. The tight end's got 8 touchdowns, I think, on the year. Like when we played him, he was a touchdown threat. And then the two running backs. So the quarterback doesn't have to be as big a factor for Texas Tech because they have, and then give them credit. Mac Leftwich does a nice job on their offense. And it's intentional. When he talks about balance, it's that old Mike Leach quote, like balance to him wasn't, running the ball 5 times and throwing the ball 5 times. Balance to him was that all 5 offensive eligible players touch the ball each time. And that's what Mac Leftwich has created at Texas Tech is that all their guys, every guy on the field is a threat on every given play.
So how does Oregon try to scheme? Because and I so appreciate your insight. So like Oregon's been scheming a little more this year defensively, right? Being a little more creative. How do they get creative to cover all these weapons? Because I love how you highlighted, man, there's 5-6 guys every time they snap the ball.
Yeah, I really do. I kind of think the advantage in this game, the biggest advantage to me is Texas Tech's offense against Oregon's defense. And people may disagree, but I think I just remember Oregon, they rolled the safety down into the box against us to stop the run, and no one had to do that against us. And they brought him down in there, and their corners were out there, and their 2 corners. I love the young kid, the number 4. He's going to be a really good player. He's a true freshman. He's a long rangey guy, but let's not forget the kid is a true freshman, and their other corner is a freshman. So I don't know and then get the safeties in the box. The Thinneman kid's a great run fit guy, but coverage wise, he's not an elite coverage type safety. So I think a little bit Oregon has to be concerned a little bit with I think how they got to protect their DBs in some capacity, and then find a way to stop the 2 running backs. So I think there's a little bit of a story there in terms of how Oregon decides to protect their corners, protect their DBs, and stop the run.
As a defensive coach, Clint, when you have your team taking the field, I would have to imagine it's a little more comforting to know we're going to line up and knock you off the ball and kick your ass, as opposed to, I know I'm a great defensive coach, but I need these guys on every play to stay in the scheme because one false step and we're in trouble. Am I kind of right about that? Like, I would imagine it's much more comfortable just knocking guys right off the ball.
Yeah. And honestly, that's where I think Texas Tech, that's where, if you look at their defensive numbers, the other part of this game that I think is irrelevant is disruptive plays. And, you look at Texas Tech, I just kind of pulled up their stats a little bit. I mean, they're top 3 in sacks. They're top, I think they're top 10 in sacks, tackles for loss, and forced turnovers. I mean, they've created 31 takeaways. They win with disruptive plays, and the disruptive players are their front 7. And that's a big story because in these big games, can you get a guy? Can you make one play? Because both teams are going to move the ball. They both have weapons. And so that one tackle for loss that creates that 2nd and 12 or that 3rd and 11, instead of, this methodically going, 1st and 10 to 2nd and 7 to 3rd and 4 and then convert, like Texas Tech makes plays and they speed people up with the defensive end play, and it's showing. They're averaging, their sack game and their tackle for loss game, I think is a big deal in this one because That's speeding offenses up. Turnovers happen when offenses get sped up and things happen a little bit faster. And Texas Tech forces people to do that more than about any defense I think I watched this year, maybe outside of Oklahoma and some of those guys in terms of but Texas Tech does it with just those D linemen. I mean, those D linemen get after people at Texas Tech.
How much harder is it? Because you think, like, I remember leading up to the Big 12 championship game, we did like so many breakdowns of that for the Big 12 show I do and here. And it's like, okay, well, Bear Bachmeier just has to get rid of the ball early. Tell me, like, how difficult is that? You know what I mean? Like, that can't be like, oh, okay, well, we'll just have him release the ball quicker and everything will be fine. Like, what's the reality of that situation?
Yeah, the reality of it is in the quick pass game, guys still have to win. Guys have to win in coverage, and when you're talking about like a team like Texas Tech that can roll down, play some man free on you, and play some man coverage, and honestly, like it takes away a lot of the quick game if the guy can't win. So it always seems that way, and then you start getting into a game of guessing all the time. Are they in man free? Are they not? But yeah, just don't. People always say that, and it always seems to be like this offensive, outlet. But as much as like defenses right now can drop 8, rush 3, drop 8, as much as all that stuff's become a factor, there's a line of traffic on those underneath zones for QBs just to easily make that throw, and then those balls always come out a little bit lower. Like that's where the D line's hands up and finding windows that ball has to come out at a different trajectory and on the quick game. So. The part where Oregon can get Texas Tech, I think, is a little bit. Oregon is kind of a sneaky offense in terms of when they get a few things going. Will Stein, they hunt the big play. They hunt the matchup. They hunt the play action shot. They hunt the kind of the trickery part of it a little bit. And as aggressive as Texas Tech is, there may be some plays in there for Oregon that fits their offense in terms of they're dumped down. They have a great screen game. Like they're always finding creative ways to run screens, which will slow Texas Tech down a little bit, to be honest. But to play it a little bit more honest. So, I don't know. I don't think Oregon's answer is going to be, the quick pass game. I think it's going to be try and get the run game going and find ways to hit those 2 wideouts on some shot plays.
How good is Texas Tech? Like, really, because I believe, and again, I'm a little biased being here in Big 12 country, like I said earlier, but I'm like, this is, defense wins championships. And they have this amazing defense that has gone wire to wire playing, out of their minds, right? Like, can they win a championship? Is this team that good?
I think they are. I mean, now when we left the Oregon game, I thought in my mind that Oregon had one of the better looking teams, one of the faster teams. Like Oregon had speed like everywhere, but Oregon's secondary, I think, is a little bit of an issue for them. That part of it. And I agree with you. I think the defense at Tech, well, really, the thing that comes back to me about Texas Tech, and it went to the week that we played them, is that special teams wise, Kenny Perry has done a great job with their special teams. I mean, you're talking about units who have a great return game. They've blocked more punts than any team in the nation. So they make plays, returned a kickoff against us for 100 yards and a punt return. So they block kicks, they return. Special teams wise, Texas Tech's good. I'm not saying Oregon's not, but I come back to the balance of what Texas Tech is. Defensively, they are really good. I mean, they're great up front. They have linebackers, they have DBs. They play really well at all 3 levels, and they create problems. Special teams, they make plays, and then on offense, they have found a way to create a system that they run the ball, they throw to the tight end, they throw to the wideouts. They have a creative scheme on offense, and a good scheme to get the ball to several guys. It's just it truly is a balanced team from all aspects, and I think that part of it is what makes those guys so tough. And I do think that makes them a championship team.
All right, Clint Bowen, man, I cannot thank you enough for spending some time with us this morning, dude. And it was cool to get into some of that Kansas stuff as well. I mean, that is really great. And what you did this year making chicken salad, bro, was very impressive. So congrats to you and a tip of the cap. Much respect, man.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. This was awesome.
You got it. Thanks, Clint. All right, there you go. You heard it right there. I mean, that's probably some of the best analysis you can get on that football game. And it was really cool to text John Bucati, who, by the way, we literally did an episode, The Payoff with Pete, Stories of Sobriety, that's up right now, about John and his life. He played football at Kansas. He literally is like a painter, an artist for at jam band shows, and he still does it now. He's like a live artist. He does amazing work. And there you go, right? Football is just such a thread. And he goes back to, I asked him about Clint Bowen this morning, and the guy sent me like 3 paragraphs about how awesome of a guy Clint Bowen is. And we just saw right there exactly why. And my relationship with Glenn Mason goes back many years. And it's just really cool how, the spider web, it all comes together. How's it going to come together for Baylor with their new big man, James Najee? I'm calling the Baylor game on the radio today, filling in for John Morris. The tip-off is at 3 p.m. We're not going to see James today, but we might see him soon. I actually have a little insight on when we'll see him, thanks to some of the stuff that I've been doing. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. Actually, we will when we come back on the Pete Souza Show, presented by Slovacek. Scotty Swingler's going to weigh in. That's right. We'll be right back.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
What if you could clean clean? With bio-based formulas and deep cleaning enzymes. No dyes, phthalates, or mystery ingredients. Just powerful pods for your dishes and laundry. Now you can, with drops made clean, made to clean.
Welcome to Kit Bag, the ultimate destination for football fans. Whether you're cheering for Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, or any other top club, for true football passion, think Kit Bag. Visit kitbag.com today. That's kitbag.com. Kit Bag.
It's the Restore Clarity Focus Patch, my little secret weapon for staying sharp, focused, and on task. Each box comes with simple instructions inside, so you always know exactly how to apply it. Each patch lasts for 3 days. I love that I can wear it all day.
Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite. At Tusane's, we understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Visit Tusanes.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.
A house is a property, but we live in homes. Home sweet home. Homes where the heart is. We aim to deliver the best home buying and selling experience so you can spend less time real estating and more time living.
Unlock a world of convenience with Mullybox, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. Each box is tailored to your taste. Mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com.
Better sleep, inspired by nature. Your back, hips, and shoulders will fall into perfect alignment in any position, meaning that you get deeper, more comfortable rest. Visit ecoterrabeds.com.
It's the Pete Souza Show. Sports.
Welcome to Market XLS, your all-in-one Excel solution for investors. Designed as an enterprise-grade platform, Market XLS caters to investment managers, secure and efficient investment management and research. Book your free demo.
Everybody at Equilife really has a passion and a real interest in helping people feel well. How much further can we go to get you feeling even better? It is a complete partnership between the two of us.
So all you have to do is tap your Popple to the back of someone's phone like that, and they instantly get your social media and contact info right on their screen. They don't need an app or a Popple to receive your info. So get your Popple today and start impressing everyone you meet. Make it pop.
It's hard to find supplements that work. No, thank you. Plant-based supplements made from the Earth's most powerful plants for your immune health, gut health, workouts, and more. Find out more at auraorganic.com. Stability.
Pete Souza Show rolls on, and we are here with Scotty Swingler live in studio, Chris Visser in Orlando, Florida, holding it down, hooking us up with Clint Bowen, and that was like, I cannot wait to put that up on the interweb and let our tech fans sink their teeth into that one, because the reaction that I have initially from that conversation is that Texas Tech is going to beat Oregon's ass. I mean, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but that's what I took away from that. That Texas Tech is a better football team than Oregon, talent-wise and depth-wise, which I think is huge. Look, man, you talk to and when you talk to an actual real coach, by the way, and this is for everybody out there who thinks they know so much about football, when you talk to a real coach about this stuff, like, you get brought back down to earth. You're like, oh yeah, 3 phases of the game, like winning all 3 phases, right? Like, special teams is huge. And I think when we're analyzing games, we so often, gloss over. And I'm not trying to be like, Mike Francesa, like, oh, well, special teams, that's how they're going to win. They're going to use special teams. It's like, no, I'm not saying that. But when you talk to a real coach, they remind you of what real coaches actually prepare for and think about. And especially a guy who is right in the middle of it right now, right? I mean, that guy was preparing to face Texas Tech less than a month ago. So great conversation with Coach Bowen. We move now and turn the page to a you don't hear Baylor and Scott Drew and controversy used in the same like breath. And this is not that, right? I mean, this is a basketball thing. It's more interesting, I think, than controversial. But if you look at some of the clickbaity headlines that are out there, you could say it's controversial. And then you get a conversation from Scott Drew and he smiles and he just basically, he said it yesterday, like, there are probably rules that are going, and that was actually refreshing, honestly, to hear him talk about the fact that collective bargaining will probably come sooner than later. And when it does, there'll be a lot of changes. But right now, it's not here. And like, the rules are the rules. And part of being great, I think, is taking full advantage of what you have in front of you rules-wise. Look, it goes back to, I always talk about the Raiders on this show, but like when they were awesome, like, the Raiders were one of those teams, like, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And like that mentality, you can take it the wrong way, but the right way to take it is like, if you're not using every possible advantage within the rules that you can, right? You're not doing everything you can to win basketball games. So in a climate where the Baylor fan has been ridden into apathy on the football side of it, this is where I bring in Scotty. Like, you got to be juiced, dude. If you're a Baylor basketball fan, you got to be pumped, because your coach and your front office, right? They're doing everything they can to win a championship this year.
That's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah. So when you see a huge move like that, which, by the way, Scotty's got some great recon that goes back months now. He'll play that clip for you. But how do you feel about this move?
Pumped.
Yeah.
Pumped. Yeah. Baylor basketball needs a center. That we do not have a center. Second season in a row that you've got a lot of talent around the perimeter and nobody playing good defense on the inside, because you're running a guy that's 6'8" at center, and you just can't do it. And Joslin Bodo's injury has been really bad for this team. So you knew that's what you needed. And the fact that you got a kid with enough of an upside, enough of a ceiling to be the 31st pick in the NBA draft is exciting. That's thrilling to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is something too, and we're about to give you exhibit A of that. But, Baylor and the basketball program, they have not been running and hiding from this. They have been basically telling us this. Those games on the radio that I call when John Morris and Pat Nunley, if you're familiar with Baylor, you know that Pat Nunley, Baylor great, John Morris, voice of the Bears. Sometimes in these non-con games, they switch over to do the ESPN Plus TV side. So I'll fill in on radio calling the game, and someone like David Kay will join me. David Kay is like, he has the keys to unlock all the answers to all the things knowledge-wise with Baylor. And while I don't press David, I certainly hang on everything he tells me. And shame on me for not pushing the narrative more here. But, he would talk about it on the air. Like, it's no secret that this team is looking to add a big man mid-season. And here we are. And you say you got some evidence of that too.
Bro, watch this.
Okay.
So as those who followed the story might have noted that Tom Izzo has played a role here, kind of publicly calling out Scott Drew for this. Last night or 2 nights ago, Scott Drew said in his presser, they had a phone call. It went well. They're aligned, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to do whatever it takes to help Baylor win, which is what you want your head coach to do, by the way, to be clear. Every single fan in America wants their head coach to do this. But I want to go back. Pete, I think Scott Drew told me and Matt Mosley that he was going to do this over a month and a half ago. So at the beginning of November, the very first G Leaguer that signed to come back to college basketball, I believe it was with Louisville. I'm frustrated I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But the very first one of these kids that had been playing in the G League and he's coming back, got eligible, he was going to play for Louisville. November 7th, Matt Mosley asked Scott Drew about this, and I want you to watch not only listen to what Scott Drew says in response to him here, but watch his eyes as he clearly looks up at the SID or someone in the room, maybe worried that he spilled the game plan. And when I realized when James Najee signed with Baylor, my mind immediately went back to this interview. And I was like, he told us exactly what he was going to do early November. Check this out, Pete. This is really awesome.
It is the Matt Mosley Show YouTube version.
I'm sorry, Pete. That's the long clip.
By the way, I love clips where Mosley looks cleaned up, dude. He must have had to go on Cowherd earlier that day.
Here's the abbreviated clip. Here we go.
On that G League thing that you and Coach Izzo were pretty open about, and I think you agreed with Coach Izzo, just like, hey, just we just need to know what the rules are because things, all that. But that said, while that's being addressed and while you're kind of seeking some clarification, that seems to be a route people could come from. Do you assign anybody on your staff to take a peek at those G League games and be on the lookout for some help in that regard? While that still is now apparently you can scout and recruit from the G League.
Hey, we're watching everybody. We're watching the NBA. We're watching.
But it's too late then.
But anyway, yes, to answer your question.
Did you see his eyes? He went, we're watching everybody. We're watching the NBA. He starts laughing nervously and he looks up at someone else in the room with him like, I just gave it away. I gave it because Matt responds, which would have been my response too, and says, well, it's probably too late at that point. And clearly, and I know Najee has not appeared in an NBA game, so like we can parse that. But Drew, that was November 7th, Pete.
Yeah.
Scott Drew's like, we're not just watching the G League. Like we're trying to find the best player that we're allowed to get in here.
The 31st pick in the NBA draft.
Bingo. And so I just, that clip is so interesting to me that he immediately responded and goes, we're watching everybody. We're watching the NBA.
And here, let me share with you my abbreviated experience with Baylor basketball and its success. And no, I want you here for this because when they have a player like this, it's synonymous with winning. When they have a big like this, Baylor wins. Like at least in the last 6-7 years right? I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think my pushback.
The
pushback is
the championship team you still leaned on, like you still had a real force.
Your weakest, you're correct, but your weakest piece, your weakest rotation piece on that team was Flo Thamba.
Yeah.
And he was competent. He was a competent Big 12 center, but he was not a 31st pick. Like Baylor has not had a big man with this kind of talent.
What about Yves Missi, dude?
I mean, Yves Missi is the last one, but that team I would say underperformed in the tournament. I think that team was disappointing in the tournament. You're right. He was obviously but
they were really good. That team was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they blew it. Yeah.
And I was mad Yves Missi had such a good season because I wanted him to come back for another year.
Yeah, and that was legit. I mean, I remember talking to a buddy of mine, Eric Amsler. He's a scout for the Heat. And it was before I called a Baylor game. And he was like, this kid, nobody saw it. And I guess I'm just, everybody knew this, but he was like, he's not going to leave this year. Like he's coming back for a second year. This was like very early in the season.
Yeah, right.
Talking about Yves. And then like you said,
he just exploded.
Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you the last time Baylor had a center though, and I love Yves Missi, and that's a great call out because he's obviously been very successful in the NBA and he was a great player at Baylor. But Yves Missi is what I would call like a leaper, right? He's not very physically imposing. He's actually kind of slight, but the dude can just jump out of the gym and out athletic you, right? The last time Baylor had a center that I was like, oh, that dude can just stand in the paint, block everything, and take you on the low block was probably Jonathan Motley.
Wow.
Which I think was like 2015, 16. Someone can jump in the comments and correct. That's the last time Baylor had a 7-footer where I was like, give him the ball in the low post, let him stand in the middle and block everything. Like Baylor's not had a player of this kind of archetype in a very long time.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited. And by the way, Scott Drew's first great team was an Elite 8 team in 2009.
Oh, I remember that.
That played Duke in Houston. Yeah, and I went to that game. I was in high school. And that team featured not only Epe Udo, who's the best shot blocker in school history and was the 6th overall pick in the NBA draft, but then a big guy in the middle, an unsung hero on that team was named Josh Lomers. And Josh was just a 7-foot kid from Bernie, Texas. And his job was to stand in the middle and block shots and set devastating screens up top. And that team would not have worked without Josh Lomers. So Scott Drew knows how to use these huge dudes in one way or another, however it best suits their skill set.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since he's had a guy this physically imposing.
Who do you think it affects in the rotation the most? I mean, Bodo, obviously, but I'm talking about guys that are healthy and have
nobody. No, because honestly,
because those guys have been overworked. The rotation's been too short.
Yes, and the guy this will actually affect positively is Michael Ratai, because Michael Ratai has been your starting 5, and he's been relied upon to kind of fill that center spot, even though he's 6'8", and really his game is I would say high post and or way out in the corner, like a corner 3 drive, kind of 4. That's really more of his game. And he's kind of been forced into service as the big man. That's not his game. So if Scott can find a way to get Ratai on the floor sometimes at the same time as Najee and not just as this duct tape center, that's going to make Ratai play his natural position.
Okay.
Which I think then helps the whole offense, helps the whole defense, certainly helps everybody.
Yeah. I think you make a great point there. Nobody's going to lose like no active player is going to lose from this. It's only going to enhance.
Everybody's going to move to a more natural position, I think, when he's on the floor.
The one thing I have a feeling and I'm hearing a little bit of, I think I have a pretty good vibe on this, is that, we definitely won't see him till conference play, right? And even then, that may be a little ahead of schedule. Like they're not going to rush him. Like,
can I ask why that is? Why?
I have no. Well, I get the feeling. So he's been playing in Spain, right? And to think about it this way, right? Like if you are, and this is just like the overall complexity of this situation. So he's been playing in Spain, but some of those overseas leagues are like, and the reason I say that is, those guys go over there and they get paid, but like, are they getting developed? You can almost go backwards, right? Like as far as like your coaching, or there's some great coaches over there, but you get my point. Like you're not getting the development that you'll get at Baylor, right? If you're James, right? Yep. Najee. But there's also a point of it too, where it's like, how much is he playing over there? What is his like real shape like? We haven't seen any footage of him playing in Spain. And when Scott was asked,
well, and I read something that like his numbers per minute are really impressive, but he hasn't been playing a lot of minutes.
No, he has not been playing a lot of minutes. And my deduction with all the evidence laid before us is that the guy's not in great shape. That's just he's 7'2". I don't know that he is in great shape, and they don't want to expose him and put him in an environment where he could get some kind of injury by pressing early in his.
Well, and maybe it's just that they need to start him slow.
Yeah, I think that's it. There's no like
give him 10 minutes off the bench to start.
And I think that's sort of how you'll see his entry point into this team. And he's available like starting their first conference game. And what that means, I think, is they will use him if they have to. Like, I don't know that that's exactly the winning recipe that Scott Drew has in his mind right now. But, like, I can't imagine, like, 3 games into the conference that he won't be a big part of the rotation. You know what I mean? I would think 3-4 games in.
Can you give me some insight on this? Because I saw some debate online, and I texted a few guys about this, so I think I understand it, but I want to know if you understand it. The New York Knicks hold his rights in the NBA. He was actually part of the Karl Anthony Towns
he's part of the cat trade.
If the Knicks in like 3 months are suddenly like, crap, we need another center, can they call him up, or does he have to sign something with them? And could he theoretically, if the Knicks are like, hey, we want to sign you to a 15-day contract, can he say, no, I'm playing at Baylor?
Anything I told you about that, I'd be pulling right out of my rear end. I have some ideas, right? Like I don't think that they could do that. Because what's the penalty? You know what I'm saying? Like they can fine him, I guess, maybe, but like he's not with another NBA team. Yeah. So I think
and I think that's what the conclusion that, as I was texting some people, that was reached, because somebody had like a panic tweet of like, the Knicks can just yank him off the team in March. And like, I don't think that's how that works. I think he'd have to sign it, because I don't think he has signed a contract.
Yes.
With the Knicks.
Yes.
So yeah, I think the situation is he can't go play for another NBA team.
Yes.
But he doesn't have to go play for the Knicks. Mm-hmm. So then the question becomes, if he plays a season, 2 seasons at Baylor, and then wants to go pro, he has
4 years of eligibility.
I know, which is one of the most insane parts about this story, by the way.
Yeah, but if the Knicks come knocking, I think if you're look, he's, first of all, and I give Scott Drew credit, he's a Baylor guy. And when Scott Drew, that was the first thing he said. Now, when we interact with him, we'll have a better like vibe check on that. But you take Scott Drew at his word, because that's the guys he brings to campus to play basketball. Like, they're awesome guys. For in my personal
and by the way, when he brings in guys that turn out not to be awesome, they're gone within a year.
Yes.
They leave quickly.
Yeah, no, they don't last.
Yeah.
So I think if the Knicks were like, hey, we want to bring you up on our active roster, I think he would probably leave, because it's just greener pastures for him on his own accord, maybe. You know what I mean? Like a legitimate NBA contract, then you don't want to be the guy who denied an NBA team an opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would behoove him to do whatever he would need to do to play at that level if he felt like he was ready. Because it's a great point. Like, if he is dominating, the Knicks can be like, oh, we need a big. We're down a couple guys. Like, what steps do we take legally to make him come play for us? But I don't think it's about them making him play. I think it's about him. I want to play in the NBA. Clearly, I'm ready. I've proven it. You know. So it's a very cool situation. I was listening a little bit to Cam on Locked On Baylor, he was pretty honest about what this means for college basketball. I don't think it's bad for college basketball.
Oh, I do.
Well, here's why it's not bad. This is one of those deals where this is like your life, my life, anybody's life. Like, something has to happen before something happens, right? Like, before you clean your stuff up, right? Like, for me, I had to hit absolute rock bottom. Like, dude, that game, that 2009 Final 8 game, I was drunk. I can remember throwing up. I don't even want to get into it, but I was not that game. I remember it was on in the background. I was doing a bunch of stuff that only alcoholic people with problems end up doing, right? And that, like, when you bring that up, it kind of like is like a punch in the stomach. I'm like, oh God, that was a dark time for me. But all that ugly stuff had to happen for me to turn my life around and to get on the right track. This is probably a logistical bottom for the NCAA this year, college basketball. And for Coach Drew to elicit collective bargaining, like for him to say those words at a press conference.
He's using his power.
Yeah, I think that's coming.
Yeah.
I think it's coming sooner than we think. I think that it's almost like a call to the powers that be to get involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think there's going to be enough guys with power, enough like Tom Izzo's, and even Scott Drew. Like, I'm sure Scott Drew is in favor of collective bargaining, right?
Yeah.
But until it's there, you've got to do whatever you can. Tad Boyle told me point blank last year, this is a mess until there's any kind of collective bargaining. It's only going to get worse. Well, I would think we're hitting our like basketball bottom. Do you think so?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't trust the NCAA to ever do anything right or
Well, I don't think they will. I think the government will get involved.
Well, there we go.
I
I
really
don't
do.
necessarily trust them to do anything right or timely either, though.
No, and we could get into that, but that's a whole nother show. All right, Scotty, this is your last show with us at the Pete Souza Show. I can't believe it. I hate it.
Surprise!
It's like my family is everybody's bewildered. But stuff happens in business and whatever. Let me tell you this right now, and it's got nothing to do with Scotty's performance or Scotty's amazing work here on this show, which has literally made this show so much better and really what it is today. Like, I could say 50-50 me and Scotty. So I hope people will continue to watch. But stuff like there's things in life that are beyond our control. But Scotty's still going to be a part of the network, still going to be doing Please Bear With Me. I envision Scotty as being more on the talent side now and less producing, but that's up to Scotty to say. I don't make any of those rules. Anything you would like to say that's not super corny? Would make us both cry.
No. If it's not super corny, I got nothing to say.
Yeah. But do you want to say anything?
Just love you, Pete.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. And I've said it privately, so I can say it publicly. I hope it's not the final chapter, man.
I don't think it is.
I don't think we're done working together. Maybe just hitting pause on this right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brent, you can bring me back anytime as a
Look,
Baylor
Scotty's
guest.
got to make some big boy money. That's it. That's what we're saying right now.
Hey, you can bring me back anytime as a Baylor guest. I'd love to come chop it up with you anytime.
And here's another thing I'll say, right? This is like what Kenny Dillingham said, right? Hey, look, you guys out there in Central Texas or people that have been watching the show, I don't care if you're in Dubai, right? You want Scotty on this show, stroke a check.
There we go.
Somebody out there could stroke a check, all right? Get in touch, DM me.
There we go.
That's not a lie either. If you feel like
there we go,
stroke a check,
yeah,
and DM me, and we can keep my man right here, right now.
Yep.
But the guy's got a family and he's got stuff he needs to do. So I don't know. We love Scotty, but yeah, this isn't the end. This is like a pause, and he'll still be coming on for Baylor stuff.
Let's go.
Yeah, but I love you, Scotty.
I love you too, buddy.
All right, man. We'll be back on Friday, the Pete Souza Show. Everybody have a great next couple of days. We're presented by Slovacics. Thanks so much, Clint Bowen, Chris Visser. Yeah, man. This is a bullshit vibe right now, but we got to go out on it. We'll see you guys on Friday.
It's the Pete Souza Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
Show. Sports.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.